thought today would be as good a day as any to go over my Pokemon thoughts. The thoughts that I have on the main series. So your reds, blues, golds. So I gotta give you my little history with it. I would say after Zelda, Pokemon would be the second biggest deal game series growing up. I was 7 or 8 when Red and Blue came out, so I was about the perfect age for the Pokemon craze. And I'd gotten Blue version. That was the first one I'd gotten, and I got that near when it came out. So if you never played that back in the 90s and you went back to it now, it would probably play like garbage to you. It's a broken mess. It's a programming nightmare. Glitches. The game balance isn't great. Although, I would almost argue the game balance is better than they are nowadays. The games nowadays are way too easy. But being the first generation, there's lots of things that didn't have. There's an EXP share, for example, but you can only give that to one other Pokemon. There's no EXP all. No global trading system, or whatever they call it now. But I would easily say Generation 1's still my second favorite generation. Of course, Gold and Silver would be my first. Generation 2 is my favorite. Spoiler alert. I played the crap out of that game as a kid. I had gotten a Clefable up to level like 89 once, and this is on the original hardware, so I'm not using any sort of fast forward feature or anything. I beat that game as a kid quite a few times. I'm not going to say dozens, but one of the things that I really like doing these days occasionally is loading up the Pokemon randomizer and then just blasting through that game. Red and Blue are probably the ones I have the most memorized. I can blast through those pretty quickly using the randomizer. Because really all you need to do in those games is pick one or two really strong Pokemon and then just brute force your way through. But I was the kind of kid that back then we would go chase Missing No and use that item multiplication glitch, get all the Master Balls, and then I was always nervous that I was going to corrupt my save file, so yeah, if I was feeling ballsy, I'd catch a Missing No, but I had heard that it could corrupt your file. I don't know if there's any veracity to that claim, but yeah, I've played the crap out of those games. I absolutely adore them for what they are. You know, I even did the where you go to the cruise ship in Vermilion. You beat Gary. Well, you know, he's not Gary in the game, but he's Gary. You beat him, but then you let your Pokemon faint so the ship doesn't leave, and then you can go back to the dock and surf over, and there's a truck over there. So I remember going there and trying to figure out how to get Mew from there. I got lots of great things to say. I think that was near peak Pokemon. So then Gold, well, there's Yellow version too. So my brother had gotten Yellow, He was never as into Pokemon as me. So I probably played as Yellow just as much as he did. And I definitely prefer going back to Red and Blue over that. I think it's neat that you can get the 3 starters. Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. But I could never figure out how to get Bulbasaur for some reason. Now, I know it's like Officer Jenny in Vermilion, or something like that. Maybe she's in Cerulean. I could never figure it out. I'm sure it's really simple. I could look it up, but I'm talking back in the, back in 99 or whenever that came out. Pretty sure it was 99. And I'm going to try to just focus on the main series games because, I could talk. I was into, well, I've been into Pokemon cards since then too. Haven't played a lot of the spin-offs other than Pokemon Snap. So I guess I could talk about the spin-offs I have played because it's like 2. Pokemon Snap, it was a fun time, but I didn't play that until I was a little bit older. Teens probably, mid-2000s. And then I remember going over to a friend's house. He had Pokemon Stadium. Played that like once or twice, but we usually ended up playing GoldenEye. So, yeah, while I'm on the topic, what other ones have I played? Pokemon Go. that government spyware. Played that a lot. Yeah, I never really got into the spin-offs. If I think of another one, I guess I'll bring it up. Gold and Silver, got that real close to release. And that's what a sequel should be for any game series ever. It was just the same thing but bigger. And you had the whole Kanto region as post-game content. And even though that region was actually kind of poorly done, because you go through Johto, and I love the designs of the Pokemon in Generation 2 as well. A lot of people my age, there's the original 101, or the kind of the OG Pokemon. To me, it's the first 251. That's when my boy Shuckle was created. But you beat the 8 gyms, you go do the Elite Four, and then the Kanto region opens up. By then, you're in the level 50s. Your Pokemon are level 50 plus. And there's the 8 gym badges in Kanto too, but they're rocking level 30 and 40 Pokemon. So it's completely unbalanced, but that's almost part of the charm in a way. Just the mere fact that they included that, to me, even though it wasn't done great, is an incredible plus. And then you go and fight Red in Mount Silver as like the final boss of the game. That fight's always epic because it takes get up to him, and then he's got proper leveled Pokemon because his Pikachu is 81 or something like that. And I can't think of any Pokemon games since then that had as difficult of a final boss, as high a leveled as that. So I do consider that to be the greatest generation. Also, you got the night-day cycle, which I'm a big, I still am. I was a big fan of that. I remember waking up early to make sure I played, so I could go to the bug catching zone because maybe it was Pinsir or Scyther. I could be wrong on that, but I get make sure to play at a specific time of day to make sure I could catch the different Pokemon. It was very immersive. It was awesome, and that mechanic itself colors my opinion of Ruby and Sapphire, which I'll get to in a minute. But I had this guide for Gold and Silver. It was, I believe it was an unofficial guide. It was called the Perfect Guide, something like that. I can't remember the publisher, but that's the greatest strategy guide ever made for any game. It had all the different Pokemon and all the different areas, the percentages, like the encounter rate percentage, and I would use that and I would hunt everything down. The roaming legendaries were a cool idea, although they're kind of a bitch. But I could level lots of not complaints, but nitpicks at those games. But they're the greatest ones, easily, for me. So then we got Ruby and Sapphire, and I didn't get those ones right away. It was only like a year or two later. I think I had gotten Leaf Green actually before I got Ruby. Oh, I was the gold version, by the way, not silver. Gotta represent the gold gang. So Ruby was the one I had gotten for Generation 3. I remember thinking with that game that it seemed like a regression, because your night-day cycle was gone. I was very hung up on that. And then it seemed so much smaller than Gold and Silver were. I didn't care for the Pokemon as much. And I was a big fan of the pixel art style that the original Game Boy games have. And even to this day, like one of the games I want to play real soon is, it's the first Saga game, but it's called either Final Fantasy Adventure or Legend. I can't remember which one. But it's got that Game Boy, very much Game Boy look to it. And I really like that. I like that art style for those games. So, even though Ruby and Sapphire had, improved graphics, I actually like the older ones better. Although the back sprites were definitely improved. I'll give it that. Generation 3 had introduced a lot of mechanics that I didn't really appreciate at the time. Because it definitely, in a lot of areas, Ruby and Sapphire pushed the series forward. So you have natures and abilities. I never got super deep into making my Pokemon super competitive, so even to this day, I'll pay attention to it, but back then I never did. So I never really got the whole feeling of improvement with that at the time. But even to this day, they're not my favorite. That's not my favorite generation. Now, a lot of my opinion here is based on so much nostalgia, and I'm not sorry. There's no way I can remove that from my opinions. Just a second. So then the next one was the remakes for Generation 1. And yeah, I can't remember if I was Leaf Green or Fire Red. I'm pretty sure I was Leaf Green. That one feels right. But even with those, I remember thinking, why, these games aren't that old. Why remake them already? And yeah, it makes, that was another thing, is with Ruby and Sapphire, is you couldn't transfer your Pokemon up from Generation 1 or 2. and they never really fixed things after that. To me, I should be able to catch a Pokemon in Pokemon Blue in 2025 and somehow transfer it without having to go through a million hoops. Transfer it to Scarlet and Violet. That's how it should work. And Generation 3 was when they just decided not to let that, not to do that. And like, I get it, the programming reasons, but just because I get it doesn't mean I have to like it. So in that regard, it makes sense why they remade Red and Blue. I just remember feeling kind of underwhelmed by that, and if I want to play Generation 1 or I want to play the Kanto region, I'm going to play Red and Blue. I'm not going to play Fire Red and Leaf Green. So to me, they're fairly forgettable. I know they have extra content, so that's cool, but Diamond and Pearl were the DS ones. I got those fairly close to when they came out, but not right away. Actually, what's the third one? Platinum. Platinum was the one I ended up getting. So I didn't play that generation until Platinum had come out, and I definitely liked that better than Generation 3. But I don't even remember, it didn't leave a giant impression on me. Even to this day, to me, it's forgettable. Heart Gold and Soul Silver were pretty cool, though. I got in Heart Gold. Man, this used to be important information. Maybe I'd gotten I think I got Soul Silver because I had Gold version before. With Generation 2. Those are great remakes. They improved a lot of things, but even now, if I want to go back, I would rather go back to Gold and Silver. Nostalgia right there. But Heart Gold and Soul Silver were really great remakes. But I only ever played through those like once or twice, so I can't really say too much. I think they did a little bit better balancing job. I don't even remember. DS also had Black and White, and I actually pre-ordered those. Went to GameStop and got that the day of. I didn't care for them. I didn't really. So in that one, they came out with another 156 new Pokemon, and those were basically the only ones you could get until the post game. And I didn't like that decision, but looking back, I can appreciate that decision. Definitely gives those games a unique identity. And I've heard that that's the generation that Game Freak was really like trying their hardest, because they can be really freaking lazy. But unfortunately, I didn't care for it. I had gotten Black. I didn't really care for it too much. I've beaten all of these so far, by the way. X and Y were the 3DS one, the first 3DS ones. That's Generation 6 now. And I really actually like that. I know there's a lot of complaints about it. And I've only played through it the once and beat it, and that's when it was new. I don't think I pre-ordered that, but I'm pretty sure I got it within a week or two of it coming out. I got X. And I had a lot of fun with it. I do remember it being kind of easy, but there was things about it I really liked. I liked how the game looked. That was the first game that went to 3D models of everything. I can't really remember too much about that either. It's like Diamond and Platinum I beat once. Black I beat once. X I beat once. Back when they were new, so obviously they're not the greatest if I haven't been like, oh, I need to go back and replay them. Then Sun and Moon came out, and that's the only generation I've skipped. And I didn't skip it for any reason other than I had recently gotten married. Then about like a year before that, and then our daughter was born right around when that came out, and I was just busy with stuff, so I didn't pick that up, and I still haven't gone back and played it. But what I did pick up later on and play, like a year or two later, were the Ruby and Sapphire remakes, and I like those. Again, I played it once. I don't even remember which one I had. I want to say the whatever the Ruby one was called, Alpha Ruby or something. I like that probably more than the original. That's probably the first case of that, but that's just because I was never attached to the original. Then Generation 8 is when it gets... That's when it went to the Switch with Sword and Shield. Probably the most divisive of the Pokemon games. And I picked up Sword with the DLC. Played through it, beat it. And I have a big problem with Dexit. With not being able to get every Pokemon in that game. A huge sin in my eyes. But I actually liked Sword and Shield. I had a good time playing it. I liked it. It was fun. I thought the wild area was cool. The rest of it was linear, but if you've seen some of my other videos, I think linear is used as a dirty word, but it's not. There's nothing wrong with a linear game. I had a lot of fun. It was easy. There's a part of me that likes the EXP share, EXP all share, whatever they're calling it, where your entire team gets experience points. There's a part of me that likes that because I'm not 10 years old anymore to be able to put in the time. So I get that. I think it should be able to be turned off. Or was that could you turn that? I know in Scarlet you can't. I can't remember if you can in Sword or Shield. But that should be something that you can turn off if you want to. But I like those games. I thought they were fun. And then I got Violet, Generation 9. And I don't like that one. The idea of an open world Pokemon game is a neat one. And I had been dreaming of an open world Pokemon game ever since I played Grand Theft Auto on the PS2. I always thought that'd be cool. But I don't... Or like a Pokemon MMO, that, you know, that'd be neat. But I didn't like that. I didn't like those. I didn't like Scarlet and Violet at all. I beat it, but it was the most poorly done open world I've played. And you'd think with a large world, you'd have more variety of Pokemon. So I was not impressed. So that's kind of my experience with the main series. But I'd like to talk about Game Freak for a second, the developers of the games. They obviously hate Pokemon. Ever since, I would say X and Y is when it started showing. Because I spoke highly enough of X and Y. Yeah, and even Sword and Shield. But you can tell there's a lack of love and effort. And then they'll take mechanics and add them in a game and then take them away. It's like a lot of Pokemon games are 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I've noticed that I'm not even close to alone in this criticism. It's very noticed by a lot of different people. As I'm recording this, Legends ZA is fairly new, came out within the last month. And there's just no effort. In Scarlet and Violet, that was one of my big issues with it. Was it just felt half-assed. There's no reason that the graphics need to be as, like, the frame rate needs to stutter. I remember the villagers, like, boop, 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 because they were just not animated very well. There's no soul in Scarlet and Violet. And they've been slowly losing soul. So what I would like to see is, it'll never happen, but I would like to see Pokemon put into a developer who actually wants to make a Pokemon game. Because if they continue down the trajectory they are, like, I'll put it this way, I don't even know if I'm going to get a Switch 2. I'll probably a few years down the road I will, because I'm a big Nintendo dork. But if the Generation 10 reviews, and you know, you can't base everything on reviews, but you know, with the information that comes out on it, if it just seems like another soulless job, I'm not even gonna bother. Oh, I forgot to talk about the Diamond and Pearl remakes. I had a lot, again, those were very half-assed, pretty short. There wasn't any added content, but they played a lot like a traditional, like the older style Pokemon games, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. So I can recognize that they were pretty shittily made. There wasn't a whole lot of effort, but at the same time they were still a lot of fun, because at the core, Pokemon, the mechanics of Pokemon are great. That's why it's as popular as it is, with the games being as crummy as they are. So I believe that's all of the, because yeah, I believe that's the main series. One other thing I'll mention is the stories, like the story with each game. I'm one of those people who think that Red and Blue had the best story, because there was no story. Be the best. Conquer the league. That was the whole story. And Gold and Silver were basically the same way. And then you get like Sword and Shield. You know, I'm just pounding through trying to get through the cutscenes and the dialogue. I didn't read half the dialogue. Ever since they started putting dialogue in these games more and more, it's like increasingly got more and more story to it. And I could give I couldn't, I always say that wrong, I couldn't give less of a shit about story in Pokemon. I just want to play the game. And that's just me with a lot of games. Most games, actually. So Scarlet and Violet, a huge turn off for me was all the story stuff. I don't care. I just want to enslave these creatures and make them fight for my entertainment. That's all I want to do. I think a great way to improve the series would be